Welcome to the Silhouettes of Success podcast with your host, successful entrepreneur, broker, and business mentor, Amber Weitzer. Because success comes in all shapes, sizes, and styles, the Silhouettes of Success podcast is shining the light on industrious women with a collection of curated conversations of intentional inspiration designed to inspire your heart, ignite your mind, feed your soul, and gift you with actionable insights directly from inspirational, everyday women who've shown tenacity, grit, and grace, having taken on the challenges in their lives and business and won. Remarkable, down-to-earth, and relatable, Amber and her guests will share with you uplifting and extraordinary real-life success stories, motivational ideas that just might help spark something within you. With the deepest desire to serve you, help you grow so you can begin to shine the light that will illuminate your very own silhouette of success. So, let's get to it.
Hello, and welcome to the Amber Weitzer podcast, Silhouettes of Success. It is such a delight to talk with today's silhouette. I was hypnotized by her work from the moment my eyes began dancing while reviewing her portfolio. She is the owner of Little Blue Deer, LLC, offering an array of graphic design services, including website design, blog design, and custom artwork. She is the principal and chief designer. She received a BA from Emory University and has been working in graphic design and website production for over 15 years. She splits her time between Fort Lauderdale and Vermont and tries to carry this chic, inclusive global lifestyle into everything she does. So please help me welcome Shari Miller. Hello, Shari.
Hi, Amber. How are you?
I am doing very well this new year. How are you doing?
Wonderfully. Looking with a lot of hope for a more bright 2021.
Absolutely, and I think it's fair.
I think.
Yes. How can we not be so excited and optimistic, especially in the world that we get to see all of your beautiful work? I think it's just so uplifting every time I see something that you've done.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, and I really do feel like it's such a gift to be able to create and share beauty. You know, I love being a designer because it's all about aesthetics, which of course there are many, many more important things in the world. But, you know, beautiful things make people happy, and to be able to create that and actually make people happy and sort of bring their vision to life on the page, on the screen, in print, etc. It's a joy. It makes me really happy, and I'm extremely grateful.
Well, it brings us joy, and so we are so grateful that you have such talent and skills and patience to do all of that for us. So, Shari, as we get to speak with you today, you're sharing your Silhouette of Success story with us, and once again, so excited to have you. So, if you would help illustrate the early shapings of your silhouette by talking a little bit maybe about your background and how you came into this career path.
Absolutely. I would be so happy to. I don't think I have it anymore, but when I was in the second grade, I got a laminated certificate for being the best artist in the second grade, which is really funny. So I always kind of had the natural, I guess, you hate to say that you have talent. I mean, it sounds arrogant to say, but, you know, some people are blessed with a great singing voice. I have a horrible singing voice, you know, but God gave me the ability to kind of be an artist, I guess. I took art lessons and, you know, just painting. I always enjoyed art classes in school. I took them outside of school. But my family was very also academically oriented, the way that I was raised. I remember in my senior year in high school I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, and you know, sort of toying with the idea of going to Savannah College of Art and Design, which is now really a quite esteemed design institution. You know, my family was kind of like, well, my mom was for it. My dad was like, no, you know, I don't want you to go to art school. Maybe skipping ahead just a little bit. But one thing I do, my niece, for example, is quite artistic. And I always say that if you have artistic talent or you have a child with artistic talent, it doesn't mean they're going to be a starving artist necessarily. But I do feel really strongly that anyone with that bent would maybe want to pursue at least some kind of professional certification or degree. Graphic designers are pretty much always in demand. And once you have that skill set, it kind of gives, you can kind of be creative while being self-supporting, which is very important to me. So just as an aside, if somebody says, oh, I want to be an artist, I don't think you should ever tell them, oh, you'll never make any money. That's a crazy idea. It's just, there are ways to sort of take that skill and manipulate it so that you actually can be self-supporting. So I ended up at Emory, and I have a degree in English, and I graduated in 95. So I ended up moving up to New York City from Atlanta, and it was in 2000, right at the start of the big tech boom when they had Silicon Alley, and I went to work for a number of different startups, and that's really where I got my technical background. Like I said, I have an English degree, but I learned a lot more about programming, web design, interface, et cetera, which clearly that's 20 years ago. It's changed. But I learned a lot about that during while working in Silicon Alley. I worked as a producer for a number of years, different web companies. And in short, I started my company or my blog in 2009. And it was sort of at the beginning of blogging. And I was working in a job that wasn't really that fulfilling to me. And I just thought, you know what, I'm going to start a blog. And it was just a personal blog and a lifestyle blog. I love interior design too. And what happened was I was pretty dedicated to my blog, and I spent a lot of time keeping up with it and interacting with other bloggers, which is really important. That's kind of the whole point, I think, of social media and blogging interface platforms. And people started asking me, because they liked the design of my blog, if I would design their blog. And so the business grew really organically from there. I started out just doing something that interested me, and lo and behold, here we are.
Isn't that, we hear that once you start down the path and you're doing something that's naturally fulfilling to you, that it does lead you into those natural growth patterns that perhaps when we really try to focus on, we can't find that path because we're not in our element. We are finding it, or we think we're in it, or we're forcing it, but we're really not there. So that is so amazing for you.
Thank you. It really is. I feel very fortunate.
That's phenomenal. Did you have anyone that was influencing or inspiring you as you began your blog? Or like you talked about, we're drawn to beautiful things. We're drawn to all of those sparkles, and because it takes us to a magical place for that moment, right? But was there anyone that inspired you, or was it all things that were just coming in from your own heart and your vision?
I'm constantly inspired, and there was no one specific person or company or thing, maybe. I really think that at that point, it was the conglomeration of blogs. Some of the really, quote, big bloggers started maybe around 2000, 2001, but blogging was still pretty new. And I think what I liked was the idea of the design reciprocation with blogging, particularly with like lifestyle and interior design. And of course, there was no Instagram back then either. So it was basically blogging or nothing if you wanted to share ideas. And I think what I found most inspiring about it was just all the different bloggers out there who were sharing other work, people's other interior designers' design work, Pinterest. I don't even know if Pinterest existed back then, but it was coming along. So just sort of the idea that there's so much out there. And to me, at that point, blogging was sort of the repository for all of these different inspiring images that were floating around the internet. People would collect and feature, in a post or on a page. And then you would talk about it through the comments, and it would be like a whole group of like-minded women commenting on and, interfacing with each other and really sharing the beauty.
That's amazing. As you talk about that was a question I was going to ask you. As an independent creative and business owner, how and where do you find support? And so you've mentioned or touched on that, but fast forward to maybe now or in the last couple of years or maybe even in the last year, where do you turn to for support?
I have no support. I'm so glad you asked. It is such a problem.
Yes.
You know, and I'm sure you've probably talked to other women, or maybe they're upcoming on the podcast who do. But working for yourself can be extremely isolating. And I've always worked from home. One other piece of advice that I would have for people who are maybe starting out is to keep their overhead low to start. I remember reading an article, and I think it was about Tory Burch back in the day. And one of the things that the article praised her for was, not starting out with a big, huge, fancy office, like putting the company together, maybe in her living room, even with the resources that, I think it was Tory Burch had at the time. There was no reason to have some big fancy thing when you didn't even know if, where it was going to go. So I've always worked from home, so I don't have like that office support, and I miss it sometimes. I don't hate not having a commute and that kind of thing, and it was very beneficial to me at the start of this pandemic. I was like, oh, this is nothing new. Like, I've been doing this for 15 years, so no big deal. It can get super lonely and isolating. I know there are support groups. If you ask me for competitors, I couldn't even list them because I just try not to pay too much attention to what's going on around me, and I just focus on doing what's right for the client and what I think is right for the client. So I've probably fallen down on any real professional organizations or support organizations, but I do have some things that I do personally to help me stay healthy and balanced. But as far as professional support, I think that's an area I could probably stand to explore more, for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. While being an entrepreneur, being an independent, it is very isolating and can get lonely and things like that. So that is part of what really prompted me to, get out there a little bit with the podcast, because I think so many of us obviously did not realize last year would take place as we were putting certain things into motion. And you were there on the front side with me, helping me position what we're doing. But it is so tough to do that and to stay motivated and positive and all of those things when we have so many hats on as females. But then on top of that, you're pulling away and you're more isolated while you're trying to do your work. And sometimes there are those moments where you just need to bounce something off of somebody. And coming from different corporate style environments like you did, there is that tendency to stop and say, I really missed that component. Maybe not the other 90%, but there is that. So hopefully, as we start getting more messages out there of the Silhouettes of Success, then we have another resource where we can maybe just tune in and bounce certain things off of each other we're going through. So I'm appreciative of you for sharing that very honest, candid truth, that it is lonely and sometimes we're so busy doing what we need to do that we miss fulfilling that for ourselves.
Right. I appreciate that, Amber. I think it is incredibly lonely. It is incredibly isolating, and I love what you're doing. I support it, and I think it's very important for women.
I wanted to share with everybody, of course, as you share your Silhouette of Success story, your business model. I wanted to ask about that because when I initially saw your portfolio and found you through a wonderful colleague of mine, and you have done beautiful work for everybody, but her website just knocked my socks off. I wanted you to share a little bit about your thought process on how you created that, because it is such a unique business model and it seems to work very, very well. But talk a little bit about how you decided to set it up that way, because, of course, at first I was very curious about how would this work, but felt very comfortable because of the way you laid it out fully with the expectations on the front side.
Oh, that's great. That makes me feel so good. Another thing, which I think might be common with some entrepreneurs, but probably isn't the greatest thing, is I didn't start out with a business plan or anything like that. My business just grew kind of organically, and it sometimes does still feel like a train rolling out of control. And I wish, maybe back at the start, it would have behooved me to be a little bit more organized, but it was just like work starts coming in and you just start doing it. And it's just, and then you look up and it's 13 years later and you're like, oh my gosh, this is what I have. So I definitely try to be price conscious, and I think that that's one thing that maybe sets my services apart from other people is I understand, you want a personal blog. Not everybody has $15,000 or $30,000 to spend, and that's definitely not unheard of, for a blog design, particularly for a site design. And I just thought to myself, I know there are people out there who only have X number of dollars. But in order to maintain that price point, time is money. And I really love the axiom. I think it's, a business school axiom. It's the fast, cheap, and good. Like, you can't have all three. It's physically impossible to have a company that successfully delivers all three of those things and that is able to stay in business. So to me, and this is going to sound kind of tacky and crass, but like, time is sort of money. So in order to provide clients with the best price and also to do a good job for them, I had to come up with some areas where I could cut down on my time. So in my opinion, my time is best spent designing and building somebody's brand. I don't enjoy phone calls. This is great. So I've done a few podcasts and it's nice to do. I'm happy to do them. But I know one thing that would take up a lot of time would be getting on the phone with people. And once you get past the niceties and everything, the time is ticking away. So I decided long ago, I've actually never accepted phone calls. That actually works out really well because the client and myself both have a record of what we've talked about. So it's easy to refer back to an email, and then it gives me a whole email thread to be able to look back and say, okay, this is what they wanted then. And instead of taking notes on a phone call and chatting, it's really streamlined things. So that's probably one of the key cores of my business that makes some people uncomfortable, much less so these days. And I've noticed that there are a number of companies now that are chat or email only. I think live phone calls are kind of going away in a general way. But part of my business model, why I do what I do, is not want to talk to people. It's just so that I can minimize the time spent in interface and maximize the time spent with brand building and design.
I think it's very wise that you understand how you work best, what your goals are, and stick with your true north for your business model. And you're right. In the beginning, it was a little bit different. And I read through it several times and I thought, again, conversely, in my world, of course, it's about talking with everybody and making sure we connect. And so I thought, well, okay, I saw how, in my friend Ann Bridgman, who I mentioned earlier about the referral and her website, and I thought, well, okay, we can do this. But even more so with regards to your business model, I think it's very impressive how, again, you've outlined those expectations on the front side, but how you were able to set such clear boundaries for your business and your personal time. So when you mentioned how it's kind of coming at you fast, it's such a strong, streamlined system that you do have in place. And just very admirable that you've done that for yourself, because a lot of folks aren't able to really set those boundaries and stick with them.
It is very, very hard to, and I'll share a few other tips that might help people if you want.
Oh, please do. Yeah.
This is true for any business. I mean, no matter what you do. But I turn off email notifications on my phone, so I don't have any email notifications just because I was getting so anxiety ridden, and I turn off my email at, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, whatever time it is that I deem to stop looking at email. I just shut my email window and I turn it off. And I know I understand like real estate. I mean, my gosh, my husband will call real estate agents at 9 o'clock at night. I'm like, honey, you're at home trying to relax. And he says, no, this is the time. But so if you can shut off your phone and your email, and just, you have to have some kind of delineation between the work day and the personal day, particularly when you're in business for yourself and particularly working from home. I think a lot of people have probably learned that this year, just setting those kinds of boundaries. So I'm not reading in bed at night and I get an email notification and I think, oh my gosh, what crisis is it now? And then I won't sleep all night. So there you go.
You are spot on that you are responsible for making my brand of the amberweitzer.com, where the podcast is sitting there, just so remarkably impressive. It's welcoming, and all of your talents have been complimented by so many people to me. So I want to make sure that you know that. It's just so beautiful and stunning. When I do email you, I get tickled when I receive an email back that says your inbox is on pause or something to that nature. And I think, good for you.
Oh, yeah. And actually,
good for you.
It's funny because I've been asked about that before, and actually it was in another podcast. It turns out everybody's really interested in this. What I use is Boomerang, and I'm sure there's many companies like it, but it's sort of an add-on, like a email browser extension where you can filter and set your email, and you can also just use any, a vacation responder or whatever. But I made that decision several years ago. The other thing that's important to me is because it's just me. I want to focus on the clients that I have currently who have work in progress and then other things. So my goal is to be present and available to current clients first and foremost, of course, and then moving down the line to whatever other issues need attending to. But for any entrepreneur, but particularly as a designer, you're focused. You're trying to create. It's hard to be creative under the gun. So if I can have a way to kind of pause my email inbox and pause so I can really focus and be in the design moment, if you will, it's helpful for me and really for the end result for the client.
From me to you, I'm grateful for you doing that.
Yeah.
Because the work reflects beautifully, of course, on all of our websites that you do. So that is a great, great asset to have. So thank you for sharing that. So for one quick second, we're going to take a pause and hear from this episode's sponsor.
Is it time to sell your home? Build that dream home? Right size? Or are you ready to invest in real estate? Couture Real Estate Firm is a local female-owned independent brokerage laser-focused on services exclusively tailored to our clients' real estate goals. With our forward-thinking business model, we have a fully mobile, luxury real estate concept allowing convenience, flexibility, efficiency for our clients in style. Amber Weitzer, broker-owner of Couture Real Estate Firm, has over 20 years in the real estate industry and is a second-generation broker. She provides straightforward business practices, integrity, and intelligence with a commitment to a high-touch, consistent customer service experience. We take great pride in our reputation as a strong, referral-based brokerage. Discretion, tenacity, respect, and proactive business practices have earned Couture Real Estate Firm a loyal, repeat client business with a trusted global partner network. We strive for ultimate client satisfaction with successful results, doing it with class, consciousness, and a little avant-garde. In addition to serving our clients and vendor partners, we are extremely honored to be actively engaged in supporting the communities we serve by promoting small businesses, schools, and nonprofits. Real estate is direct sales business at its core, and we are highly trained sales professionals with the Mike Ferry organization, adding dimension to the industry. Passionate about customer service, dedicated to client satisfaction, and driven to achieve successful results for our clients. Call Couture Real Estate Firm today at 817-233-7239 to discuss your real estate goals.
Shari, as we jump back into this, I was going to ask you a question, and maybe it might be a little challenging, perhaps not, but thinking back over your career or journey into where you are at this point, was there ever one specific event or key situation in your professional life that forced you to take a monumental shift within your business or career? And if so, if you can think of something to share, whether it be positive or painful, how did you grow from that situation?
Well, that's a good question. Prior to or around the time that I started my blog, which grew into Little Blue Deer, my company, I was in a pretty unfulfilling job, and I was really unhappy. See, that was probably one of the most unhappy times of my life, just professionally. I mean, it wasn't tragic or anything like that. It was just kind of horrible. And I think a lot of people are in that situation. I mean, a lot of people hate their job. Like if you ask a lot of people, they say, I hate my job. I dread getting up in the morning. I do not want to go to work. I feel sick all day on Sunday with dread and worry about the week ahead. Sadly, I don't think that's that uncommon. And so that was probably sort of a turning point for me. And what I did, as I said, was start my own blog. I wanted to do something fun for myself that I enjoyed. And it turns out that it grew into this. And I don't think that everybody who hates their job and starts a blog is going to become a graphic designer, obviously. And I mean, I was really depressed. I hated it. I mean, I actually started to have back spasms. I mean, I'm in very, very good shape. I'm an athlete, and I started having back spasms in the night, which in my opinion was job stress and just general unhappiness. But when you're so unhappy and miserable in a position that your back starts to hurt in the night, that's kind of messed up. And probably kind of a sign that you should do something. So that was probably my biggest challenge, at least professionally. And I didn't make the decision to get out of that job until, I had built up my own business. But maybe if you're at that point, for anybody that's listening, maybe do take a look at what makes me happy, what do I enjoy doing? And you can't just jump into it, quit your job and say, well, I'm going to start an ice cream stand because I love ice cream, and it's going to be fancy gelato. But maybe start making your own gelato at home, and see how it goes. Just a little thing can lead to more doors opening.
That's so inspirational. And you're right. You hear that all the time, right? And especially with all of the changes going on. I think if there ever was a time to start making that gelato in your kitchen, it would be now, right? And just to start going for it and taking those small steps until you can just launch out. And maybe making the gelato doesn't go like you thought, but it leads you to something else in your kitchen.
Exactly. You never know, Amber. That's
right.
So true.
Oh, and I can see your website with ice cream.
Yeah. I love ice cream.
I can see you making a beautiful ice cream website. Oh, that would be wonderful. So what positive adjustments have you made in your life or environment that do help support your growth of your goals and dreams, whether it be personal or business?
Sure. So I decided a while back that I'm good with my business being where it is. It's just me. I do have some other contractors and stuff that I use on occasion, but I've decided that the company is just probably going to be me. And that means it can only grow so far, and it's probably grown about to where it's going to grow to. And I'm okay with that. So I don't have any big plans for expansion, that kind of thing. I realize that if it's here, I'm going to probably stay around. You always want to do better year after year, and you generally do. And I think it's okay for entrepreneurs to decide, I don't need to turn into Spank. Maybe I will just be the person who just, makes and sells these tights or leggings or whatever on a small scale. And if you're self-supporting, be okay with that. So that's one thing that I've come to is I'm not going to drive myself batty trying to make my company bigger and better, because it's just fine where it is as far as I'm concerned. And it makes my life livable, So I've kind of reached a work-life balance. It's important if you work from home, if you have a small business and say you're just in an office space by yourself and there's no one around you, I think it's important to socialize and make sure that you're getting that social interaction, maybe outside of your family, and I know it's been hard this year, but, be it going to church or a hobby, just being able to interact with people that have nothing to do with your job or your family, I think is important. And I think getting outside and physical exercise is super, super important too, taking care of your body.
That's fantastic. Yes. And you talked a little bit about being an athlete. And so I was going to ask you about that. What feeds your soul and what entertains you on the athletic side of your life?
Oh, my gosh. I am a long-distance runner. I don't do marathons, but I run a lot of miles. A lot of trail running. I love tennis. I actually, I love golf, and I just took up golf this year. And it's funny, that's another thing that I think could be helpful to people. So my husband is a very good golfer, And, with this pandemic going on in the summer and we weren't really sure what we were going to do. And he bought me a set of golf clubs for my birthday. And we started playing a lot. And Amber, it was, we don't always challenge ourselves. And it's embarrassing to get out on the golf. I mean, you've probably played golf before. Everybody knows golf has a lot of etiquette. Like there's a lot going on out there, even though it looks like just hitting the ball. And for me, it was so good to try something new that I had not tried before, to commit to doing it, to not quit because I looked stupid and I joined the ladies golf league and they were really nice, but I know they were times they were like, this girl is terrible. Like, please get her out of the league. But I stuck to it. So it was a good professional lesson too in trying something new, not being perfect at it right away and just sticking to it, and keeping on going out there and just doing it.
Good for you. You tackled that fear and just the vulnerability, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you got out of your comfort zone.
Absolutely.
Good for you in doing that. Wow. Congratulations. Wow, that's fantastic. Well, are you a book reader? Do you enjoy books, or are you?
I do.
Do you? Do you have any favorite authors or any inspirational motivators that you'd want to share off the top of your head with us?
I don't do a whole lot of motivational reading. I do like spirituality stuff.
Yeah.
My favorite book, one of my favorite books is The Goldfinch, but that has nothing to do with anything really. It's just a wonderful, wonderful novel. So I read a book not too long ago called Followers, and I'm looking at it right now on Amazon, and it's by Megan Angelo, I do believe. And if it's the book I'm thinking about, so I have a little bit of concern. I know this isn't what you asked, but I feel like social media is kind of out of control. And that troubles me. I think it sets false expectations for people, women in particular, of course. This was a book that just resonated. Actually, it scared me and upset me, and I kind of wish that I hadn't read it after I read it. But I also think that it was kind of thought-provoking around social media. And so, it was just an interesting read. And it was probably the last book I've read that really got me thinking about things and how we're all just so out there with very, very unrealistic expectations and how stressful that can be.
Well, that's a good one. And again, it's about, motivation, of course, as you know, comes in all genres. And if it's a thought provoker, then, that absolutely is motivational. So I am so glad that you shared that because, again, we are all across all the gamut, different phases in our journeys, and especially being more in the current and paying attention and self-aware of what's going on so we are armed and able to handle situations. So it sounds like that would be something very timely for everyone to know about. So I'll make sure that we add those to the resource list. So thank you for that.
Sure.
Shari, as we wrap up, it's been a complete delight visiting with you and talking with you. In keeping the promise to share intentional inspiration, do you have a one piece of key go-to advice that you have treasured or found valuable that you'd like to share?
Couple. I've always liked to thine own self be true, and that kind of goes back to what we were just talking about with social media and all of that, that you don't have to be like everybody else. Be yourself. My job as a designer is to bring your unique vision to life, not somebody else's. We don't want you to look and be like somebody else. We want you to be you. And I also have always liked to do the next right thing. So, when you're in a crisis, you don't know what to do, or just wake up and you're confused and don't know where to start. Just do the next right thing. Just do the next right thing. And somehow things unfold. So I try to take life, one day at a time and keep it simple.
Perfect. Perfect way to wrap it up. Thank you. So as we close out, where can our audience go to find and connect with you on maybe your socials or your website and continually support you in your success?
Sure. Little Blue Deer, and that's deer with 2 E's, like the animal.com. And all of my social links are there. And I have a blog, and I'm always happy to hear from people and interact. Absolutely.
Love it. Thank you. Shari, once again, thank you for sharing your Silhouette of Success story with us. It's been a tremendous honor and pleasure talking with you.
Thank you so much, Amber. And I just wanted to say one thing so it can be on the podcast. So you and I started working together. You contacted me right at the beginning of the pandemic when we were in an absolute crisis. And I just wanted to let you know that I thought so highly of you. I thought, here is a woman who is going to use this time and take a leap and do something new and make the best of it. And I thought it showed tremendous faith and courage on your part to reach out and start a new venture, literally when the world was kind of falling apart. I thought so much about you, and I don't know that I ever got the chance to share that with you. So I just was quite impressed with your faith and doing that.
Oh, you've got me teary. Well, thank you. And you know what? That is back at you as well, milady, because just your kindness, your openness, your creative abilities, and technical savvy in walking me through some things on my end, it was a godsend to me. And so I believe in timing and signs. And so I think it's been a great partnership. And I look forward to everyone going to your website, your Instagram, all of your socials, and just seeing the unique beauty that you create for every brand and everyone that you touch, because it's such a talent and we are blessed to have you around. So thank you for everything.
Thank you so much, Amber, for your time. I really enjoyed it.
All right. Talk with you soon. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Silhouettes of Success podcast. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out and join us for all the new episodes. We are here for you and with you. We encourage you to share this podcast on all your socials and pass on the light to help illuminate another silhouette of success. Amber would love to hear from you, and you can find her on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, or head over to amberweitzer.com. Let's connect. Help us all shine and leave us a review too. To find out the latest ways to inspire your heart, ignite your mind, and gain actionable insights, subscribe at amberweitzer.com. We are honored, humbled, and full of joy that you've tuned in. Remember, you are exactly where you need to be, right here with us. This is the Amber Weitzer podcast, Silhouettes of Success.